Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's really an uninteresting question. What is Israel and what is Palestine? And here's why: because the fundamental operative that matters for us is that Israel could not exist, would not exist without the support of the United States. And so, for example, what they're doing right now, they could not be doing without the security guarantee of the United States. This little incursion in Gaza, this prepared war that they have in Lebanon. Their grand aim is to confront Iran and degrade their nuclear facilities. All of this is being done under the security umbrella of the
And
United
they
States.
did.
All of this is being done with the material and monetary support of the United States. And so, if Israel were having this war, I mean, I probably wouldn't care as much. I would care as much about the war in Niger, Niger versus Nigeria and everything else. But the problem is that Israel, as we know, has had the United States fight its enemies and fight its neighbors and adversaries for decades. We've been paying off Egypt and Jordan for decades. We fought Iraq, Syria, Libya on their behalf. And now we're doing the same thing here. And here's what matters in 2023. I agree, it is sort of pointless to talk about the 67 borders or the 48 borders. I mean, my Muslim friends are not going to love that, but I've never been like necessarily a super pro-Palestine guy. I think that Israel is committing humanitarian atrocities, but that's really outside the question of politics. And what matters right now is that what Israel is doing is angering the Muslim world. They're confronting Iran and its proxies in the region, and they're drawing the United States into this so that we will fight their wars on their behalf. Let's not pretend like it's just basically complete context denial to say this is about Israel and Palestine. This is about Israel and all of the Muslim world, and Israel dominating that entire map, which they could not do without the United States, which is something that is not in our interest. We're sandwiched right now between a losing war in Ukraine and a future losing war in Taiwan, and Israel is drawing us against our will into a conflagration in the Middle East. We're going to be fighting Hezbollah, the Houthis, which we just bombed tonight. We're going to be fighting Iran, all these other people. And it gets back to the original question. This is a Christian nation. This is America first. This is why we can't have Zionist Jews in power in America, because they're the ones that are getting America to fight all their wars that are not in favor of Gentiles, that are not in favor of Christians or Catholics. I mean, if Adam had it his way, Americans would be building the armaments and fighting the wars so
God
that the Jewish
forbid.
Messiah
Why would
could
I
come
want to
back
give
and
credit
destroy
to
the
America?
Vatican. And that's
God
not
forbid.
in our favor.
Yeah. I wouldn't assume that Adam disagrees with you. I don't know if he does. I know I don't disagree with you. I'm a total isolationist. The $3 billion we give to Israel annoys me. The $4 billion, whatever it is, it annoys a lot of Israelis too. I've been to Israel and I've talked to Israelis who go, "We have a self-sufficient GDP. We don't need your money. I don't like the animosity."
They still
that
take
comes
it.
with your donation. So there's plenty of Israelis that don't want that money. And as far as fighting wars go, yeah, my worst fear is that Israel provokes Iran and we start this World War III shit. I don't even want them provoking Lebanon. But as far as what Israel's done so far to Palestine, I think it's been very kind. And if they were to stop tomorrow, then I would go, that's pretty fair. The amount of Palestinians that died in this war, the amount that were involved in Hamas, it's a very reasonable retaliation. And I think that's what happens when you kick Mike Tyson in the balls, you're going to get your ass kicked. Now, I don't want them to go further than this, but as far as where we...
It's not kicking Mike Tyson. This is two people fighting each other. And one of the two calls the big brother to fight instead of him. It's not the same whatsoever.
We are now, if we could just stop, please. I'm calling for a ceasefire, I guess. If we could just stop, please, at this. I go, that's reasonable. Like when I was over there, my biggest beef with Israel was how nice they are to everyone. Do you know how many fucking Arabs go to Tel Aviv for heart transplants and having tumors removed? Israel even treats terrorists. They treat terrorists and fucking sew them up. They have Muslims in their parliament. They have Muslims living in Israel. I was like, when I was there, I was like, you guys are way too nice to these fucking people. And this is a very controversial thing to say, but I would say this war so far has been pretty ethical. 30,000 people for the population of Gaza is actually fairly reasonable.
It's actually only 1.5% of the population of the city of Gaza. But also, you have to understand there's 25,000 members of Hamas. So if you and Hamas has been almost virtually defeated on the ground in Gaza. So if you remove the 25,000, you're really looking at like 5 to 10,000 deaths. It's not even a percentage of the population. If you go into Russia or Syria or any of these other conflict zones, they demolish like 40% of the civilian population while trying to take a city.
This debate is from about 1 year and a half ago, but now the numbers are really, really high. And Gaza is completely destroyed. It will take up to 50 years only to rebuild it.
It's quite unbelievable how they have the audacity to label this a genocide.
Yeah, look at the percentage of Israeli civilians that were killed, and the percentage of Palestinian civilians that were killed.
And just for context, like October 7th, 1,400 Jews were killed. And in relation to America, because there's only 15 million Jews in the whole world, 8 million in Israel. But if you consider the whole 15 million in the world, the way that Jews were impacted by October 7th, the population equivalency to America, it would be as if 47,000 Americans were killed in a single 6-hour period. It would blow the minds of Americans. If any country did that, America would destroy them. I mean, America killed 1 million civilians in Iraq because Afghanistan and 9/11. It's ludicrous to think that Israel's a genocidal nation because we literally surgically removed Hamas from the Gaza Strip.
That's not my argument, though. But that's not my. You guys are talking about civilian casualties.
And just to get to your point, Nick, I want to address your point.
Is this an infinite talking time for Gavin and Adam, or what?
Well, when you have good ideas, you got to share them. But I want to address your point
Adam,
Nick's got to be able to talk.
We'll address the point. Let's go to Nick on this one.
Well, I just want to say something quickly, and then we got to get Vince in because Vince hasn't talked since the beginning. But I just want to say briefly, I mean, it's interesting because, I feel like I'm laying out these arguments, and we're hearing just arguments from the other side to other arguments that weren't made, because I didn't really say anything about the civilian casualties constituting a genocide or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I said really it's sort of a might makes right. And you know what? Israel's dominating the region from a strategic point of view. I mean, what they're doing is, it may be wicked, but it's smart. And from a military point of view, what I'm arguing, like to Gavin's point, Gavin said he's worried about World War III. Israel is deliberately drawing us into that against our will. We want a ceasefire because we recognize that that is what the Iranian axis is asking for, and we want to avoid this becoming a regional conflict. Israel wants it to become a regional conflict. That's why, I believe that is why they allowed October 7th to happen. I believe that is why they are currently threatening Hezbollah and striking deeper and deeper into Lebanese territory, and that's this whole situation with the Houthis, and I think the ultimate goal is Iran. So that's what they're doing. That's the problem. Again, that's why Jews are sort of the issue at the top of the elite society, because they're looking out for Israel. And what's good for Israel is blowing up Iran. That's not good for the United States. So for me, it's got nothing to do with casualties. I mean, like I said, I think there's a moral case to be made, but this is a political argument. But I want to. We got to get Vince in here. I feel like Adam and Gavin have gone a lot. I've gone a lot. We got to get Vince in.
All right, let's go, Vince. Drop the hammer. Bring up.
I was just going to respond to something Gavin said a while ago, and I just want to touch on this briefly before I move on to what you guys are talking about right now. But so left-wing Jews are totally in favor of progressive ideas, abortion, immigration, diversity, gun laws, until you criticize Israel. And just to go back to what Nick said about Ben Shapiro retweeting the ADL, retweeting Jonathan Greenblatt.
He's not a left-wing Jew.
Look at left-wing Jews like Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman. You look at what's happening with universities. And then you look at like right-wing Jews, conservative Jews, are all in favor of the conservative narratives like abortion, immigration, diversity, gun laws, all of the same things until you criticize Israel. And then you're canceled. Look at what has happened with Nick, for example. And so right-wing Jews are totally fine with sacrificing America and America's interest if it means protecting Israel. On his show, Ben Shapiro said that, you know, we might have to use nukes if America doesn't get involved in this war. And so, you know, you guys are talking about World War III. Like this is something that this is part of the long history of the relationship that we have had with Israel, which has been called our greatest ally in the Middle East. Time and time again, they have done things in the Middle East that we have told them or recommended that they don't do, which has completely destabilized the Middle East, has soured our relationships with Arab nations, and has led to the deaths of Americans, American civilians, American Marines. And so this is part of the problem, and that I have, and stuff that we go over on the show all the time. And I have a question for Adam King. Do you think, because I don't think that you completely answered this, but do you think that Israel, like if you were to wake up one day and you were able to dictate the borders of Israel, would you be in support of from river to river?
From the river to the sea, Israel will be free. No, everything that I want is the biblical lands that are outlined in the Torah. I don't want an inch more than what God decreed to Moses. That's irrelevant to me. But I do think, though, that there is.
But you were supposed to accept the Messiah. Okay, it's not like you reject the Messiah and then you take the land.
Such an antiquity of Jews in the Middle East outside of the land of Israel. For example, the Song of Solomon is actually a book of the real estate holdings of the crown of Judah. And he had 1,000 wives. He married the daughters in each place that of all the kings. In each place he had there was a massive Jewish contingency, like embassies almost. So it's important to know that the Jews have massive history inside of the Middle East. When Nick's talking about the Jews wanting to destabilize the Middle East, first of all, Israel's a sovereign nation, and just the reintroduction of Jews to the Middle East was a destabilization. What the Arabs and the Muslims want is an expansive caliphate that has no interruptions, where they can have the Mediterranean Sea and push their agenda directly into Europe. Now, as far as Israel taking foreign aid from America, I don't really like it when America gives foreign aid. In fact, I'm an America First patriot. I believe that other countries should pay America for its support, not the other way around.
Yes.
But in addition to that, it makes me very nervous when Biden rolls his boats up into the Middle East for several reasons. First and foremost, Israel is more than capable of protecting itself. It has fought multiple armies on multiple occasions at the same exact time. 1967, 1973, 1948, all were attacked by different nations at the same time, and Israel conquered all of them at once. Unlike what Nick thinks, Israel doesn't need America. In fact, America slows Israel down. In 2005, the Gaza disengagement is the reason why we're here. That was done by George Bush and Condoleezza Rice. That was an exclusive American plan. It's that America constantly puts its agenda on Israel, and its agenda is actually very bad for the Middle East. It's pro-Iran. And I know Gavin said that, and other people have stated that Israel is provoking Iran. It's actually the opposite. It's that Iran is not just provoking other nations, but Iran is provoking Israel and the rest of the world. And in order to truly understand the conflict, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
1 second. In order to truly understand the conflict in the Middle East, you have to understand the Sunni Shia conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And there's no way to intellectually, honestly look at Israel without the broader picture of the geopolitical trends that are happening in Islam. The Iran conquered the government in Yemen and installed the Houthis, which has done nothing but destabilize the region, in the Arab region, in the Gulf states. You know, Nick, I don't hear you talking about Iranian destabilization of the Middle East. It's almost like a singular attack on Jews, that Israel is the problem of the world. And Israel has its own sovereignty. It can make decisions without the need to check with the United States.
Well, if I could rebut that, I know Gavin was trying to jump in there, but since I was directly mentioned, the reason why is because the United States isn't holding an umbrella over Iran taking over the region, but we are doing that for Israel. And, you know, the thing about It's so funny because I've debated many Jews about the subject of specifically foreign aid over the years. And you know what it is? They have so much pride. They hate taking money from the Goyim. They hate that they are dependent on the Goyim. And so they take the money. They need the money. They need our guns. They need our support. They do need us. And, you can say all you'd like, well, we don't need America. America slows us down. But, you just take a look at a guy like Ben Shapiro. I know you're not Ben, but, he's a good example of this. Years ago, he was asked at a Q&A, should we remove the foreign aid? And he said, well, it doesn't matter because we don't need America. Israel can defend herself, because they're so proud. They're such a proud people. But then when Hamas attacked on October 7th and this Iranian crescent pincer started to squeeze Israel, Shapiro and Mark Levin and all the other Zionists went on TV and said, if the United States doesn't give Israel what it wants, when it wants it, no questions asked, then we're going to nuke the whole region. We're going to use our nukes and everything. And that's because, of course, historically they can't. You had one miraculous victory without our support in 67 because he did a sneak attack on the Egyptian and Syrian Air Force.
What about 73?
In 48, no, that was 67.
I'm saying that miraculous wins were 48, 67,
and
73
was the airlift from America. You couldn't have won without the airlift from Nixon and Kissinger. And in 48, you couldn't have won without the smuggling from American Jews. We facilitated all the arms going to Israel during the ceasefire.
Those wars because God willed it so. Because God wants to bring home His children.
It wasn't because of American bought carriers in Lebanon.
1948, 600,000 Jews starving in the who just came out of the Holocaust with barely having pistols, conquered the greatest empire at the time, England, won its independence, and then fought 3 armies. Just 600,000 Jews with barely any munitions whatsoever.
It doesn't make you think American Jewish gangsters were smuggling weapons to Israel. How do you think they did that?
Romans
From
today.
God. That's a miracle from God. In fact, in 1967 and in 1973, before the Jews went to war, we dug our own graves in Tel Aviv. There was empty graves when we returned from battle. We literally thought we were walking to our deaths, and it was going to be a noble death to die defending our desire to have our own homeland in our ancestral homeland. And we won.
Nice.
That wasn't because of America. That was because of God.
That's nice. Well, here's the thing, though. the thing is about from the ashes of the Holocaust, which was a hoax, by the way, but the United States is what protects Israel. So you said, why don't you talk about Iran? You're just singling out the poor, helpless state of Israel. The reason why I'm talking about Israel is because we have the security umbrella. You don't want the aid? Don't take the aid. You don't want the aircraft carriers there? Don't take the aircraft carriers there. But that is the situation. It's like Gavin said, what matters is what's happening now, not hypothetically, not if you woke up and you were the Moshiach or whatever. What matters is the situation now, which is they provoked this war. And by the way, you talk about how Israel can defend itself. It couldn't defend itself against a bunch of guys in hang gliders, paragliders, and, riding in on tricycles or miniature tricycles and clown cars. Hamas moved in there. This is supposed to be, 30,000 guys, and, they have no technology. But they breached the most surveilled, secured, armed border, maybe next to the DMZ in Korea. Of course, they knew about it for years. They saw them training for it. And they were late to respond, and probably Israel caused a lot of the casualties on October 7th, and that's because Netanyahu's hanging on to power, and he knew that this would be the perfect pretext to get Gaza and get Iran with the support of the United States. Without the United States, Israel would be in real trouble from Iran and Hezbollah and the Houthis and the Mobilization Front and all these other groups. And so, that's my problem with that arrangement.
This is incredible. Like the entitlement of these people. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree or disagree. Leave a like if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless.